We'll just say this is my short-term bias remains neutral to positive, although the upside has now come in quite a bit. My midterm remains still bearish. And obviously, if you ask me where Bitcoin is in 5 years, I think it's much, much, much higher. Gold is down again today. It has fallen off the proverbial cliff. We, again, are seeing a little bit of downside this morning on the SPY. But again, this is a key level, and this is a key level. We have a lot of support down here on the SPY. But please understand that the head and shoulders is bearish, and it's still continuing to tell us that we have to go lower on the chart. In fact, if we do a measured move, we know that you go take that highest point to that neckline, and we do the same thing here. That tells us that we're probably headed right down to about 405 on the SPY, which again, for those of you that don't know, the SPY is the S&P 500. It's just the tracking ETF for the S&P there.
Wall Street ended higher as investors analyzed economic data and Treasury yields paused at 16-year highs. Treasury yields stabilizing around 4.6% brought relief to markets, which had seen recent volatility. Despite a pullback since late July, the S&P 500 remains up about 12% for 2023. Investors await Friday's Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index for insights into inflation. In Washington, efforts to avert a government shutdown were ongoing. Analysts warn that U.S. stocks could face headwinds regardless of rate direction. They note that if inflation drives higher rates, it could negatively impact equity valuations. Conversely, lower rates due to a growth shock, like a recession, could also harm equities. Gold futures markets saw increased open interest and volume after 6 consecutive daily pullbacks. This suggests the potential for further short-term declines. Long-term, gold faces key support around $1,800 per troy ounce. Bitcoin's price has surged over 3.57% to break $28,000, marking a promising start to Q4 2023. This breakout above $28,000 opens doors for a potential rally to $31,000, indicating a 10% increase from the current levels. BTC is currently trading at $28,125, surpassing its 200-day moving average, a bullish sign. The next major hurdle lies at $30,000, but caution is advised amidst this green candle formation. Bitcoin's on-chain indicators reveal intriguing insights. Those holding Bitcoin for 12 to 18 months show strong faith, refraining from selling even at break-even points. This signals confidence in Bitcoin's long-term potential. Conversely, the 6 to 12-month group currently in profit is actively selling on exchanges, reflecting varying levels of confidence in Bitcoin's future trajectory. The minimal inflow of Bitcoin from the 12 to 18-month group suggests the realized price may not pose significant resistance to Bitcoin's price. Let's continue our enlightening discussion with Gareth Soloway.
Bitcoin finally getting a move here. What I think is amazing is that if you watched last week's game plan on Thursday, I told you guys that your bias in the short term on Bitcoin became bullish. And again, I mean, the little tidbits that I'm dropping in these game plans can literally make you guys money. Now let's talk about it. So basically what we had here, we have this trend line, right? So we have this trend line sloping up. We had this orange one sloping down. Now, one of the things that I was pointing to, and I'm going to zoom in on this because it's super, super important, is that if we take a look here, we know we had this trend line here, this trend line get hit here, here, and then also multiple times here and once here, and then we broke out. This was last Thursday, right? Thursday we broke out. That changed the bias. From that point, it now became a bullish short-term indicator. Now remember, short-term tells you nothing about midterm or long-term. It's only telling you about what's going to happen the next few days to week or so. But sure enough, we closed here. We consolidated on Friday and Saturday. Sunday, we ripped higher. Monday, we're continuing up. Now, again, couple levels to watch on Bitcoin because, again, to me, Bitcoin's going up here. I have positions with verified investing crypto members in altcoins like Cardano, which is showing us a breakout as well, and other altcoins. But the key here, again, is at some point, resistance is going to get this in check. Now, there's a couple levels I want you guys following on Bitcoin. So where is your next Bitcoin resistance? Let's take a look right here. Okay, so if we look at Bitcoin, one of the things that I'm seeing is there's a lot of resistance at a former level right up here. So you're looking at anywhere between, I would say, 28,800 and 29,000. Now, again, look at how price hammered on this level over and over again before breaking down. What that tells us is whether or not this was at some point support. Why it was, we don't necessarily know, but this type of action created support. What that means is if price rallies up into this is going to be now resistance to the opposing side. So that is going to be resistance anywhere, again, 28,800 to 29,000. Now, should Bitcoin break above this level, let's say it puts in bullish consolidation and breaks up, you have a very clear upsloping channel or trend line that takes you back to between $30,000 and $31,000. So those are your upside levels. Now, do I think that all of a sudden Bitcoin's in a new bull market and going to be moving up beautifully? No, I don't necessarily think that. What I do think overall, if we zoom out on the chart, is that this is a common move where we see a move from this low to this low to this low. We then broke through it. Now you're retracing to the scene of the crime, back to test home base. That's a very common thing in technical analysis. All right, now again, what you're going to come into is that same resistance up here if we test it, and then ultimately if we confirmed above it, then you'd have a breakout. But one thing I always tell my traders, never assume a breakout is going to come until it shows itself, right? So many people assume, they get on the wrong side of the trade and they get whipped out. Don't get whipped out. Now, I will say this. So number one, you have to look at your overall time frames. Now, short term, there's no doubt about it that this move down is bearish on gold, right? I mean, not that it's bearish, but it's just that price has collapsed. Price has fallen basically $100 in essentially 1 week's time. Now, again, short term, we broke this support line. So where are we likely headed? Let's take a look at the chart. What does the chart tell us? The first thing I want to show you is there's a parallel coming into play. See this white trend line up here? I'm going to put a parallel on top of that, and we're going to use the parallel tool here to guide us to this level, all right? So let's do that right now. We put our parallel right on top. We drop it down, and what we can see is the parallel goes right through these lows, and that looks like it's going to be support. Now, to find a good, you want congruence. You want multiple levels going through each other, and that's, again, going to give you more support. So what we then do is we look for a pivot point, and what we can do here is if we take this pivot point and we just drag a trend line across, look at that. So now we have this pivot low, which intersects this area right here around $1,810, $1,815. That, to me, will be significant support. Now, that's your short term, right? And you have to be able to divide your short-term investment view between your midterm and your long-term. So what's the midterm? Well, the midterm, to find your midterm, what you do is you zoom out on the chart. And to do that, we clearly see that we still have this upper range of consolidation going on. So we look at the bigger move. The bigger move was this, and then essentially we're doing this consolidation, right? Bullish, a bull flag of consolidation. This still, even with this little tiny move down, which when you zoom out is almost impossible to see, this still tells you that you're still well within the ranges of the midterm view that gold is still on the bullish side. The other thing to keep in mind that I've been fascinated about, but I would just say this, is if we zoom in just to this area here, I have to wonder if what we're creating, is it an inverse head and shoulders, which is bullish, okay? Now, what I mean by that is you could make a case you have this to this to this, which we're now forming that right shoulder, and if we eventually curl up over here, we have a beautiful inverse head and shoulders for a breakout above this triple top, which again is your neckline. So again, depending on how this forms, for this to form, we're already pulling back for the shoulder, right? Here on this shoulder, we went down to here, right? So you could still go even down to this area maybe, but ultimately, do we curl over and eventually have a major breakout? What's cool about this is we can calculate our target. We draw this to the neckline, right? Lowest point to the neckline, and again, that's about $1,600 to $2,100, we'll call it. So it's a $500, a little less than $500. Breakout from here takes you to a target of between 2,500 and 2,600 to complete the inverse head and shoulders. Very, very cool on that chart.
That wraps up today's crypto news highlights. Stay tuned for more updates, insights, and analysis from the world of cryptocurrencies. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content.